What's up, you wonderful folks? This is Alex with Swamp Rat Fishing, and tonight we've got Bass and Brews. Got a great guest this episode, but I'm so happy you guys are here. This is the podcast where I wanted to give all of our favorite creators, all of our favorite YouTube creators just a chance to kind of get out there and talk about their crafts. We'll talk about fishing. We'll talk about whatever else too. If you are a returning listener, you know that it goes off the rails pretty quickly, so it's going to be awesome. Before we get started, I want to talk about Hookset Hoodlums. Hookset Hoodlums, they got a new shirt that dropped pretty recently as of this recording. It's the Hookset versus Everybody shirt. Great company. Great bunch of dudes who've just created this family atmosphere. They are amazing. Check them out, hooksethoodlums.com. Use discount code SwampRatFishing, all one word. Save yourself some scratch. Also, DM me on Instagram. I still got stickers for sale. I've got the original logo, I've got the Alt Skull logo, and I've got the Bass and Brews podcast stickers. Today's episode, we've got Jeffery Holloway, Big Nasty 186 on the show. Nasty, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. So for today's show, I've got some New Belgian Voodoo Ranger IPA. Ooh, I hope that sounded crispy in that mic.
That was crispy. That was nice.
All right, brother. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, what you do.
All right. So I was born in Cebu, Philippines, and I was adopted when I was about 3 years old, and been living in Connecticut ever since. But I live in Connecticut on and off because I'm a traveling worker. So I worked all over from upstate New York, down in New Jersey, out in Colorado, Wyoming, and even out of state. Like I was in Japan last year.
That's crazy, man.
Working. I'm a sheet metal fabricator, installer, but my most specialty is sheet metal welding for basically seamless duct from stainless steel to aluminum. So anything that needs to be that needs to contain moisture or chemicals, that's what I specialize in. So hospitals, colleges, stuff like that, military projects, obviously, with, like I said, with me being out in Misawa, Japan. Mm-hmm. I've done stuff for NASA where they built the fuselages for the space shuttle. I've done places where they do the drones for the military, the big servers for Microsoft out in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and to changing over all steam pipe to hydronic out in Misawa for all the where they storage all their hangars, where they store all the new F-35As, the F-22 Tomcats, and F-16s and shit like that. So,
well, being a traveling guy on that really lends well to fishing.
Yes, it does.
How'd you get into fishing?
So, I mean, I would probably say just almost like every story, when you were a kid growing up, you probably went with your father. Mm-hmm. Somehow it's like, the dads always, everybody I talked to, their dads always fished and brought their them or their brothers and sisters and so on and so forth. But my dad, he would bring us out fishing to the local pond in Beacon Falls called Matthews Park. And he would like bribe me. He would be like, if you mow the lawn, we will go out fishing. And bro, I would be running with the lawnmower, and the lawn would look like complete shit, and I'm like, okay, Dad, we're done. Let's go fishing.
It's done, right?
Yeah. So, I went from worm fishing from with a bobber or laying it on the bottom or saying, hey, I think a fish would love to eat this, to a bait caster throwing big zero spooks, spinner baits with the skirts on there, and I would add a trailer onto it. I'd take a rubber worm, cut it in half, and put it as a trailer. Yeah. I would use the double-bladed buzz baits, which is one of my favorites, besides throwing a jitterbug. And the zero spook is my all-time favorite. Top water, walking the dog. I've done that since I was probably 14 on a Daiwa, a Team Daiwa baitcaster,
Mm-hmm.
on a
Mm-hmm.
Uber Garcia rod,
Yeah.
Shimano was always my thing. I was big in the Shadona series, so from the Shadona 500 all the way up to the Shadona 2500 series. I always loved Shimano for some reason. So basically that's how I got into fishing, and it was bass fishing because we don't have that many trout ponds here out in Connecticut.
Right.
It's more because it's warm water. It's the ponds aren't deep. But as I got older and I discovered that wow, we actually do have trout lakes and trout ponds. The more I was able, when I was turned 16, I was able to drive around
Right.
and discover new things. And my biggest thing was going for native brookies because it, and I know it, the East Coast is home of the native wild brook trout.
You
So,
guys love your brook trout out here.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do that, and I would basically use it was called a Silstar Tiny 20 reel. It was like microscopic.
Right.
I actually couldn't even buy this line at a store. I actually had to order 1 pound test. I would do a single split shot on a 5-foot to a 411 spinning rod, or I would be basically a custom cork handle on a old fly rod tip
Okay.
because it had a real light action, and I would tight line mealworms.
Oh wow.
And that's how I would catch these wild, brookies in these streams. And then as I get older, I got a little bit better with technique, with what I wanted to use for bait, and so on and so forth. And then my fly fishing experience came out when I was probably about 20 years ago. I started steelhead fishing out in upstate New York. And like I told Wild Bill and the guys of Hooksets when I first started, a fly rod gives you more opportunities. And in my eyes, it gives me more opportunities because it allows me to keep my flies or bait in the water a lot longer. I'm not casting and retrieving all the time. Basically, it's a roll cast, let it drift, and then with the fly rod being 10 foot, 9 foot, 11 foot, or whatever, I can just roll cast it right back in the same position, do my drift, and I can probably out drift a spinning rod guy 2 or 3 times more. And I think it gives me more hookups. So the guy that was actually out in upstate New York, where I used to stay at his cabins, he also guided the Housatonic River in Connecticut, which would break up his scenery of water. He's not seeing the Salmon River all year round. He was able to, so he invited me out, me and my buddy. He's like, listen, I'll drift you guys out for free if you want to go. And he goes, I got an open day. I said, oh yeah. So the day we went, we weren't catching anything. And I watched him. He parked the drift boat and he said, hold on, let me go scout out. So he gets out of the boat. Me and my buddy are sitting there, not catching anything. It's like 1:00 in the afternoon. He's walking the edge of the river and I see him. He goes, oh, I got one. Went again. Oh, I got one. Oh, I got another one. He comes back. He goes, figured it out. And I said, well, what's that? He goes, we are going to fish the edges of the river on all the shadow lines from the trees. He goes, all those fish are staying out of the sun and they are being hidden literally in 8 inches of water.
That's insane.
And I'm like, dude, who would have thought? And he goes, and also think about it. Dude, what's falling off of the trees? Beetles, ants. So they're getting plenty of food.
Right. No reason to move.
They're spiders or whatever. And dude, we hammered it, bro. We freaking hammered it. And I said, this is freaking amazing. I caught my biggest trout at that time that I actually was trying to target. I caught it's around a 17-inch rainbow trout. And as the evening went on, we drifted into a place that I call in the Housatonic, the land of the giants. It's right before the boat ramp where people come out when they kayak or when they do drift boat trips. And bro, I saw a hatch. The bugs that were coming out of the water and all over my body. Bro, I couldn't, even if I casted and had my fly line behind me, I hooked up on a fish. Like, oh my God. There was one like they were just that hungry. Dude, it was amazing. And then I just totally fell in shoulders deep, bro. And I'm like, I'm gonna catch all these fish. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna like, that's it. I'm gonna be submerged into fly fishing, and that's how it really, how it really began for me. And I just went in head first, and look at me today,
Yeah, I was about to say, if folks have listened to this before, we have not been the nicest to fly fishermen on this podcast. But you are not a douchebag, so it's amazing. Like I find it's interesting how you say it, because definitely me as a bass fisherman, but I grew up fly fishing in Washington State. That was my jam when I was a kid.
Okay.
But then moving into bass, it's almost like the same mind frame, just a little, it's just a different attitude. One's more elitist and douchey, you're fly fisherman,
bro,
and the other one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, all right. So fly fishermen are ale drinkers, and bass fishermen are bush light drinkers, bro.
I mean, that's a pretty good. That's a pretty good.
You know what I mean? It's like a bass fisherman has a champagne taste on a Budweiser budget, compared to and it's kind of funny because that's how it is when I went out west, bro.
Yeah.
Like these people were like, oh, we, fly rod, spinning rods are made for 5-year-olds and grandparents, It's like, what the fuck? Like, dude. And how big the sport grew up to. And it's kind of funny because I just read somebody's story today that said, if you fly fish, could you please stop playing rap music on your stories? Like, and then here I am putting NWA, on my shit. And I'm like, yo, how is this guy even following me? Like, because the stuff that I put on he must despise, But it's a new generation, dude, a new generation of people, how fly fishing has blown up, and it's going to be like that for more years to come on. And I think the ideas of the newer generation, and their thoughts of the process of how they catch fish, I think is really blowing away the old school guys.
I think, I think in your guys' niche, you have to be careful, because there is definitely a lot of, like, bass fishing is definitely there. You definitely have your old guard and your newer guard coming in, and there's some clashes, but it seems like they're a little bit on pace. And I'm not super into the fly fishing world, but I dabble, and kind of looking at it, and I see a lot of that old guard is like, you got to be careful. They're going to push the new kids out, basically, because they are so stalwart with just staying exactly in that lane that's worked for however many years, instead of embracing the new ideas, putting a new spin on it, making it fun. Like, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't always have to be this like coming to Jesus moment in the outdoors where man battles beast, right? You can have fun with it. This is supposed to be a hobby.
Absolutely. I mean, to be honest, I have friends that I was just talking to my buddy tonight about it, because I just got invited again to fish out in Pennsylvania at the Yellow Creek Trout Club for the second time. And I watch him put a PW, which is a pink worm from Berkeley, on a trout magnet jig on a fly rod. All right. So just think of how many people would cringe.
Yeah, that's a little different.
Knowing that's what he did to catch that 28-inch donkey brown trout.
Right. That's huge.
But to me, that's being innovative. That's
right.
That's stepping it up to knowing that, okay, I'm not here just to fly fish. I'm here to try whatever it takes to catch my personal best, or it's either versus quality or quantity. Because I'll tell you right now, the PW, the Berkeley, the pink worm from Berkeley fucking crushes.
Really?
And I tell people all the time, because people see me, they're like, oh, Jeff, I saw you fishing that pond and you were slamming the fish. Like, what do you use? I said, stockers. I use Berkeley Mousies. It's that looks like a round ball. It's a white with a pink tail. They call it mouse tails. Or I use the pink head ball with the white tail.
Gotcha.
And I said you could fish it with a weight up against the eyelet. You could fish it with the weight 10 inches above it. You can also fish it with no weight at all and keep it suspended 3 inches below the top of the water surface. all depending wherever the trout are in the water level, you could do every technique and you will catch fish. You could jig it, you could just slow retrieve it, you could, twitch it. But I believe I'm an angler before I say I'm a fly fisherman, because I will whip out a bait caster, I'll whip out the spinning rod, I'll whip out the fly rod. I will do whatever it takes if my mindset is I'm going out fishing and I want to catch say numbers, or I want to catch a big one, or I know where they're holding. I will do whatever it takes, and I don't shy on anybody. I mean, dude, you saw, I was whipping a bait caster with freaking Lockwood.
I was about to say, folks, if you haven't seen it, this episode's going to come out after the Lockwood. That crazy man who broke down some jig secrets for us. Nasty went out with him. And how much jig experience did you have before you went out with him?
So, I don't know if he told you, but I'm going back out there.
Are you really? That's awesome.
I'm going out there on the 24th of this month, for 3 days, 3 or 4 days. Just because I want to catch bass, because like I said, I think I'm an angler, but I also want to spend time with Cody, because he's such a great guy. He became a real good friend of mine. We talk almost every day.
Dude, you guys, you could tell in the little snippets you guys put up, like, it was like, oh shit, it's peanut butter and jelly. Like, all of a sudden, like, these two dudes, and my understanding is you guys chit-chatted a little bit, but not like a ton. No, and then it met, and I don't know, like the content that I was seeing you guys put out, it was like, oh, these dudes have been fishing for, together for years and years. Nope. And come to find out that was like the first time meeting in real life.
Yep.
Yeah, that's insane.
And we met all because of Hookset Hoodlums. Like,
Hookset.
When I saw him believe me, a 4-pound bass gets me my juices flowing, dude, just as much as a 20-inch brown trout.
Dude, and I can tell, because in Lockwood's video, my favorite, I think it's got him. No, it's you recording it. He hooks into that big one, right? And you're like, bro, it's a 10-pounder. It's a 10-pounder. And you can hear Cody like, no, it's like a 4. But yeah. Like,
oh, yeah, dude. I'll whip out like ridiculous numbers, dude. And just because that's also, too, it not like me being excited, but my knowledge in seeing bass, like I don't know, because I haven't fished for bass in such a long time. Now, if you talk to me when I was in my early teens, I probably would have been like, yo, that's a 4-pounder or a 5-pounder, Yeah. But here I am, I'm like, oh my God, it's a 10-pounder.
It's a whole different animal compared to a trout. They're built different. They're totally completely. They're a fish, but they are completely not even close on the spectrum.
Yeah. And then, and it's funny because everybody's like, oh my God, because when we went there, I mean, even Bobby Roast Beef, he's like, tell me the numbers, tell me the sizes, tell me the weights. And I said, Bobby, honestly, even in my trout game, I really don't measure fish, dude. All I know is that shit is big.
Right.
And you know how it is. Pictures and videos sometimes don't even do the fish justice.
Right.
But when you have it in your hands and you could see that you could fit your fist in that bucket mouth, that bitch is big.
That's that's the thing. It's huge. I caught my PB in May, right? Like I busted my PB almost 1 ounce off of 7 pounds. I saw,
that fish was fucking huge.
Dude, that fish.
Congratulations on that one.
Thank you, brother. But awesome. I didn't take any measurements. I weighed them. That's it, right? But I didn't get any weight, or I didn't get any measurements or girth. And a couple people were like, "Oh man, you should have got that, this and that." I was like, I got pictures of it. It's great. I got video of it, and I held that son of a bitch in my hands. Like, I know how big that was. I'm not doing this for the clout to anybody else. I know that was a big ass fish.
Yeah, and you know how it is. Like, oh man, if you didn't weigh it, there's no way it was that. Or honestly, if you didn't weigh that fish, dude, I would have been like, yo, that thing's 7 pounds,
right?
Almost 8 pounds in my eyes. But for the other bass fishermen will probably know, and they'll be probably off by 1/2 pound because they see it all the time.
Right.
But dude, that fish was a freak. That was a banger, bro.
Dude, I was just going over photos. I do this thing on Instagram on the guide section where I put like my top 5 posts of the previous month. It was so good to see that one pop up. I was like, oh, it's almost like I forgot about it. I ran through the GoPro footage to go watch it again. Like, that is the fish of a lifetime for me. Like, I mean, I live in South Jersey. After I retire from the military, I plan on staying in South Jersey.
Okay.
They don't get much bigger than that. Like, that is a
That's a
like
stud.
like a 6-pounder. My previous PB was 6 pounds, 2 ounces.
Okay.
And I had dudes here who were like, oh, dude, you could totally mount that thing. Like, you're never going to get bigger than that. Like, they don't get that much bigger. And a lot of it's the water that I'm fishing. It's super skinny. It's dirty pond, usually giant pickerel infested water that these bass have to compete with. It's insane.
I have a buddy that's down in Jersey that wants me to come down and fish. And you know, I always make fun of Jersey. Everybody's like, I'm like, how's the brown trout fishing? You know, or somebody will post up they caught a carp.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh man, you caught a banger of a New Jersey brown trout. Like,
yeah,
what?
exactly.
I'm like, you caught a New Jersey brown trout, and you're like, you're an idiot. You know, I'm like,
it's such a weird place, especially like North Jersey. They've got some good trout waters. They've got some good natural stuff. I'm in the South. So it's dirty sand pits, it's dirty swamps, cranberry bogs, and then saltwater is actually king down here. Like striper, fluke, blues. Those are, I mean, you ask somebody like, oh yeah, I fish for bass, they instantly think striped bass down here. They don't give largemouth a lot of credit down here. And even where I'm at, where like I'm out in the woods, these pineys, that's what we call our local woodsy people, pineys. But they want pickerel. They want like big gator pickerel before they're even looking at bass. It's really weird.
Now, you guys got pike down there?
Nope.
No, just big just big.
So we have chain pickerel. So my PB chain pickerel is around 5.5 pounds. Ooh. He came out to a little over 30 inches. He was huge.
Wow.
Like I mean, huge. We also have redfin. Those are really small pickerels, though.
Yeah.
But pickerel, no pike. So, and they're like the main predator down here,
bro. If you ever come up my way, I'll get you out. We just this winter on ice fishing, we finally broke the 40-inch mark on a northern pike.
And what's the difference? Have you caught a chain pickerel? Like, do you know? Is the fight the same? It's just the size that's different.
It is the size because you'll go from pickerel, pike to muskie.
Right.
The way you could tell about the difference is their pattern design.
Right.
So,
but I mean, the fight was the fight similar.
I would say so. It's just bigger. Yeah. You know, it's just bigger. I mean, obviously, when you go for a northern, you know you can get up into that 30 to 40-inch range.
That's insane.
You know, where pickerel are only going to get up to, you know, a certain size and their weight, depending on what they're eating, you know, for them to put on weight. And then you got just muskies, a whole totally different beast. You're going into the 60-inch range, you know, the 58.
You know, we do have those here, but we have the tiger muskies. They stock this old. It's in Gloucester County right across the Delaware River from Philly, which I'm only about 45 minutes away from.
Okay.
And they stocked in an old DOD facility. They basically dug out all these holes, like bullshit New Jersey ingenuity. They dug out all these holes. They keep it at like 6 to 8 feet, and then they stock that thing with tiger muskie.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah, so it's got bass and tiger muskie, and then a shit ton of bluegills for the forage for both of them. And it's supposed to be insane.
So a lot of reasons why they will stock, like out in Colorado, they made a big mistake and put tiger muskie, and a tiger muskie. Well, no, I'm sorry, they made a mistake and put pike because pike breed. So the pike, they actually have a bounty on them. I know, like Green Mountain Reservoir, they give you like $10 or $15 per pike. So then they're like, well, you know what? Let's put tiger muskie in there because we know they won't breed, but they'll eat the pike.
They'll eat everything.
So basically, it's for fish control. Like a lot of the places have so much grayling that they say if we they only put in this one big lake like 10. That's all you need, and those 10 fish will control that population down. Because people don't realize a pike or a muskie can eat literally a fish that's half its size.
Oh yeah,
in one feeding. So
monsters.
Yeah, they're big. They're savage beasts. So, but if you ever come up here, dude, we have good walleye. We have good pike.
Never caught a walleye. Never caught a or a pike either.
Yep, I caught my first walleye on the fly this a couple
months
ago.
Hell yeah!
And I ate it. and it tastes delicious.
I mean, everybody loves those. I'm a crappie guy, but I've never had walleye, so I can't really like. Everybody says they're better than crappie. So
yeah, I mean, any panfish is really good, dude.
Yeah,
sunfish are my favorite. Like, is like literally my favorite fish to eat. You know, they just taste so damn good, and every lake is plentiful. Every pond has tons of them. So you know, you taking 10 of them isn't going to affect it at all. You know,
right? Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. So speaking of eating fish, so what I want to try to do, just I guess on my side. So we're talking about big gnarly predators.
Yeah.
So we've had like an explosion, but like a very controversial, healthy explosion of snakehead in South Jersey.
Really, dude?
So
you got to get rid of those fuckers.
No, dude. New Jersey Fish and Wildlife came out and just said they are not affecting the bass population at all.
Oh, really?
So because the Delaware River, so mostly they're on the Delaware River and the tributaries that are coming off of it. It's got everything else in there. It's got giant shad. It's got tons of other food sources that it is not a competing fish.
So it's not a
with the bass.
Yeah.
So dudes are pulling out like giant fucking snakehead, and they're catching them year round on hollow-bodied frogs.
Dude, that's fucking awesome, dude.
Right? And so I follow this one guy, and he's getting him in a kayak. He's driving this kayak, and all this bullshit up in there. And when he's casting out, there's like snakehead after snakehead, like multiples blowing up this frog.
Wow.
To where it's almost like a keep away game as the frog is bouncing as they're jumping out at it.
And
dude, it was fucking crazy.
Dude, and you know, and I know it. I don't care if you're a fly fisherman, spin fisherman, bait caster mission. That freaking top water blow up is what
so
is basically the drug that we're looking for. Like
so
that's
good.
I mean, just when I go fishing and I caught one of my biggest brown trout on a size 12 white wolf dry fly. Basically, to the people that don't know what a white wolf dry fly is, just picture a cotton ball with a fucking hook on it. Because that's what it because it was all white and it's coming down the river all white. And then all of a sudden you just see this mouth, this brown trout with the head of like a 10-inch long head come up slowly out of the water like it was in a movie, dude. And it just grabbed it and turned. And as soon as that head went down under the water, I set the hook, dude, and the thing didn't even fucking move. It was just like, and I'm like,
you're on a big one.
Yeah, so I'm on a total tank, right? This fucking brown trout just dogs me to the bottom of the river. The train goes by on the train track, so that guy sees me with my rod up, and now he's blowing the train horn, and I'm like, yes, baby! I'm waiting shoulders deep, dude, straight off, like the river runs through it, dude. I'm like, this is fucking great, you know. And then I was blessed enough to land it, and I mean that top water eat, dude, and that's why I love throwing the Zero Spook, the buzz bait, double bladed buzz bait, jitterbugs. Even I like throwing rubber worms with no weight just because it's right below the surface and it's given that total natural movement. And I tell people all the time, I don't know if you ever try this trick, but this old man taught me this. And I'll tell you right now, the percentages of you catching that fish that you're targeting is probably 85%, if not higher. So what I do is when I'm looking for ambush points, and as I was talking to like Wild Bill and the guys from Hookset, I said, what I do is I try to find like lily pads, grass patterns, drop-offs, okay? And what I do is I rip like a buzzbait or a weedless, something weedless or whatever, and I fucking just crank it over the lily pads. And you know, and then you get that reaction bite, that snap. And then after that, I grab my spinning rod and I throw a worm and I finesse. And I guarantee you, 85+% of the time, you're going to get that fish. And an old man taught me that, and I use it to this day. I preach about it because it works. It works, especially if it comes off the lily pads and you get that blow up. But even if you throw it on the lily pads and then you could get into the area where that worm just sinks a little bit and you could give it a, or that tail's dangling off that pad, bro.
Oh,
bro,
it's
just a waiting game.
Money.
You're just like,
see, I usually do like a 3-pronged approach. I'll do a frog on top.
Okay.
And then because it's me, and I talk about them all the time, I'll run a swim jig.
Okay.
But I'll run a swim jig 2 ways. I'll cast it out there and burn it across the top.
Okay.
As it's just pushing its way through. And then the next cast, I'll let it sink about half the distance. I'll count 2 seconds, let that thing push its way through the reeds, and then I start picking the holes. Because usually, if the frog don't get them and the swim jigs don't, they're still going to be aggravated that something was in their home, something was invading, and they're all on high alert. And that's when I'll drop that worm right into those pockets.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah.
And my favorite way to fish is, especially when I'm bass fishing, is I always consider myself as a finesse guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always in the plastics. For some reason, I have my faith in a plastic before a crankbait or even a spinner bait, that big willow leaf spinner bait with a worm trailer or whatever or whatnot. I've just, for some reason, that more life-like action,
right,
where just for me triggers the fish. My favorite setup is the Carolina rig.
Okay.
So what I do is I'll use a regular, say, size 02 offset hook.
Mm-hmm.
Hook my worm up to that way.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll go probably, I would say, I go pretty good distance, dude. I'd probably say almost 20 plus inches.
Oh, shit.
And what I do is I do a barrel, depending on where I'm going. So I would say I wouldn't go less than 16 inches. But I'll probably be in that between 16 and 20 inch range.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I do is I go with a barrel swivel. I go to a bead and then a barrel weight, and then and the bead helps prevent the weight digging into the swivel.
Right, protecting the knot.
I also think, in my mind, I don't know if this is true because you're a bass fisherman, you would know. I believe that color of bead also is a trigger. Like,
it could be. Are you using red?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I think it's the color, but also I think, especially with the Carolina rig, I don't know if you ever heard of the Mojo rig. It's basically just like a downsized version, right? So it's a spinning rod setup, right? So instead of having the big distances, you're doing smaller, but it's the same idea where your weight digs in. But even that one, I'll leave the weight free flowing, and keep that bead in there, right? Because I think that when the bead, the color of it, right, flashing through, coming down quickly, draws their attention. And then that sound, that clacking of either the weight or the barrel swivel hitting that bead, I think alerts them even more. Like, hey, something's over here. It just draws their attention to then let your soft plastic presentation float by.
Because even our flies that we use what they say, oh, it's a hot spotted, hot spot orange, neon, painted, bead head. I love to use pheasant tails with the hot spot bead head because I feel that it just helps trigger the fish. Now, a lot of people say that the bead also imitates like a water bubble, like a bubble.
I can see that.
So, I guess everybody has their beliefs or what it's trying to imitate. But I like to use a lot of leech patterns. So even if I'm targeting bass with a fly rod, I like to use egg sucking leeches. So basically, it's a woolly bugger with a hot spot. It looks like a leech sucking an egg. So the neon green, the orange, the red is like my favorite. And plus, I use it for steelhead fishing. It really triggers the steelhead and the big rainbows.
I remember as a kid doing steelheads using big, bright, but then also mixed with a dark imitator. That was like my grandfather's go-to, like mixing those two. And I think there's something to that. I think a lot of bass fishermen can maybe, I don't know if I want to say this on a recorded thing, maybe learn something from fly fishermen, and that imitating, I think it's important to imitate. And I think there's two schools of thought, right? Your power and your finesse fishermen, right? Yeah. But I think one of them takes way more faith than the other one. So I think power fishing takes way more faith. You're throwing a spinner bait, right? Which is a giant metal contraption that doesn't look like anything. And yes, you're having faith that as you're moving through that water, that you're thumping, that you're hitting that bass's lateral line, that you're triggering them.
That vibration.
Right. But also when you look at that thing as a fisherman, it's a giant hunk of fucking metal.
Bro.
Right. Like I can't take that bait seriously. And I mean, people have caught and spinnerbait fish forever. I've thrown them a lot, and I haven't been bass fishing in a long time. I've never caught one spinnerbait fish in my entire life, and I think most of it's because I have zero confidence in it.
Bro, when me and Lockwood, when like I said, I never met Lockwood until I talked to him, DMing and whatever. Really didn't talk to him on the phone, and literally talked to him like when I pulled up into his driveway.
Right.
And when we went fishing the next day, bro, he gave me this fucking bait, bro. It looked like the size of a freaking lobster. and I'm just like, okay, he wants me not to catch anything today.
Right.
So, but I didn't realize
that was the finesse version.
Yeah. I'm like, this thing is huge. And he's like, listen, he goes, this place is loaded with bluegill and it's loaded with monster crayfish. So I didn't know that probably the reason why I was catching so many. I don't know if you saw, I basically used one jig and one jig only.
Yep.
Like literally the whole time.
Yep.
It was a Beast Coast. It was a Beast Coast like blue skirted and brown jig with a molten crawl trailer.
Yep.
So I didn't realize that the crawfish go through stages. So you have it looks black and kind of brown, and then it goes into the red stage where it's looks like a lobster that was cooked. And then it goes into a molten stage where the shell is softer, and the bass target the molten stage because they can eat it a lot better.
Easier for them to eat.
And believe it or not, I'm like, holy shit, because dude, I told him, I'm like, bro, the trout do the same thing. He goes, trout eat that? I said, oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I said, and I noticed every time when they do eat it, it's in that blue, it looks blue because on the side of the shore, you'll see blue crayfish claws everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, son of a bitch. I said, I did not know that. And bro, I hammered, like I said, me and him didn't count numbers or we didn't weigh fish until that one time. He's like, oh shit. He's like, nasty. We didn't weigh any fish. Let's weigh, or we didn't measure any fish. And we measured that one that was 20 inches.
Right.
And then he caught one that I know was way bigger than that on that 6-inch fucking articulated rat,
Right.
And I told him, I said, dude, I throw mouse patterns for trout. And he's like, what? So it was kind of funny how we were both going in each other's worlds where we weren't using anything that much different, but maybe the size and how heavy it was.
Maybe the size. I think the rat too is a special one. I take super offense with the name swap rat fishing that anybody would use a rat as an imitator. It triggers me as a person. But no, I think that one's different. So because I've seen that trout one, that's usually made with like hair, right?
Yes,
like,
yes, like an elk
so there's
hair.
no sound to it.
Yeah, but what it is doing,
the bass one is loud. That thing echoes. That thing is hammering their ladder.
Well, what it's doing is, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. The time when it makes a lot of noise is when it hits the water, okay? Because you got this heavy weighted thing when it hits the water. But what they're both doing, whether it's which is a mouse, because at night we fish mouse or big streamers, articulated like 6-inch streamers.
Yep. For
these big, and then we put big weights on them, above it to really get them down, depending how deep or how fast the water's going. It's about displacing water.
It is about displacing.
So it's basically the same thing that you're trying to do. And with the rat that he used, the way it goes in the water that it was displacing off the front of it is the way that a mouse is made for a fly, and how they cut the angle is basically like the front flip. What is it called?
Oh, you're talking about the lip on the front of it.
Yeah, the lip on the front.
Yeah.
That's what they're making when they shape the head. They're making the head shape so it displaces water out the sides of the bait.
That's crazy.
So
very similar bait, but two different worlds. Downsize. You're right.
And that's what's triggering the fish, because remember, at night, what does the fish see? Especially on a moonlit night, it's seeing profile.
Yep.
And it's seeing the wake that it's making.
Right.
And people don't realize it. I don't know if bass do the same thing, because bass have a monster mouth that they can inhale it on the first time. Dude, trout actually stun it first. Right. So they will hit it and they will try to disorient it. And then as they hit it and you're like, okay, you got to keep on doing what you're doing because probably 4 seconds later, it's finally going to grab it.
Yeah.
You know,
so bass kind of do that, but they're definitely a different biter, right? Because your trout have that smaller mouth. They're a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. They try to stun them out. Bass are just going to try to inhale it, and for the most part, they're fucking lazy too.
Yeah.
So they're just going to sit in that one spot. So I've noticed, like, you can, cast to a spot, comes out, misses it.
Yeah.
Throw the soft worm in, see if he's close. If he's not, give it like 5 minutes, and they're lazy. They're going to go back to that spot because those are usually like where your big bass are. Me and Lockwood were talking about this. Where your big bass are almost your most obvious ambush points. And they're obvious because they're productive. And your bigger fish is going to muscle everything else out of the way so it can sit in that spot because it's lazy. Those bass that you catch that are out roaming and scooting, usually for the most part, those are going to be your smaller ones. Your big ones, they're going to move a little bit for the most part. They're going to sit in those high percentage ambush spots because that's where they can get food. That's how they get so big.
Yeah, and they also pushed away the smaller ones.
Right,
so
exactly.
They're fucking bullies, bro. And trout are the same way. I mean, I can show you videos of trout chasing littler trout right out of their spot. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, this is my home, like, what are you doing? Or when it comes to mating time, the way they compete for a mate is, they bite their tails, they bite their heads, they bite, you know what I mean? They're aggressive, they don't have, people don't realize these wild, bigger fish, they have fucking big teeth, man.
Yeah, I was about to say, because I remember as a kid, cutthroat and steelhead fishing as a kid, we caught some bigger ones, and they cut the shit out of me when I was a kid. Like they cut the shit out of me. And I was like, all the little ones, like the little rainbows that we'd get that we would like keep. We would lip them for pictures, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
So I try to do that to a big one because my grandfather's like, no, we're gonna keep that one, and I just sliced my whole hand up. He set me up for failure big time. All right, so
grandpa.
So you fished all over the place. Other than trout and bass, favorite species to target?
Besides
your standard trout, your brook rainbow and brown, and small or largemouth bass.
Carp on the fly.
That seems to be, I don't know if I fell in a hole, but I feel like I see a lot of that on social media now. A lot of folks doing this carp on the fly thing.
So it's getting pretty popular. But what people don't realize, it's not easy.
Right.
You want to talk about a fish that has the brain of the size of a pea, not realizing how big it is, how they're super spooky. Like these fish can feel the vibration in the ground when you're walking, and they will spook 40 feet before you even get near it. Yeah. But you can fool it when it's actually, they call it mudding, when it's feeding and it's creating that mud dust around it. Okay. That's when you kind of could sneak up on it, get your cast in, drag your carp bait or whatever you got, your carp fly. Because a lot of people are like, dude, that thing has no scent. Why is it eating it? I said it's visual. And B, these fish they could feel vibration better than I think any fish out there. And if you're in the right spot at the right time and you cast that, what I like to do is I like to cast the bait probably 4 feet past the fish, where I actually drag him into his feeding line. So where I see him mudding around and he's constantly going, say, forward a couple of inches as it's feeding, as he's doing that, I'm stripping in super slow, bro. Because I don't want to even have it touch my line. Because if it touches my line, it's like, boom, I'm out, So I'll pull it in really slow. And then when I think my bait is near it, I leave it. And then if he doesn't touch it, I will move it an inch and closer, an inch closer. And then you'll see your line move. And as soon as you see that line move, bro, you put a fucking ham bone hook set on that some bitch as hard as you could, dude, to sink that thing right into his big old freaking floppy lips.
Yeah.
And dude, to be honest, hold on, because those fish are all muscle. And they do
I was about to say, like, how do you even get that on a fly? Like, I instantly think you're going to get spooled right away. Because, I mean, some of those things are, when When I see people catching them, they're like, "Oh, it's a small one. It's like 15 to 20 pounds," and I'm like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. So, it's just like anything else, dude.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, so say this, like, you're gonna go out fishing and be like, I know this big monster, this 5-pounder is holding in this is his area. Are you gonna go there with light tackle?
Right.
No, you're gonna go there with probably some some serious stack 25-pound test line, 30-pound line, 50-pound braid because the diameter is smaller. You're gonna use your heavy action or whatever.
Yep.
And you're gonna want to be able, just like any fish, it's all about head control, right? You want to be able to control that fish, not let that fish control you. So you're gonna want to have the equipment, knowing that you're gonna have the upper hand on that fish. Same thing with carp. I know when I go for a carp, that carp is not going to be smaller than probably 10 to 15 pounds.
Right.
So I'm going to use my 9'7", my 10'7" weight, and I'm not even going to put a tapered leader. I'm going to go straight to the freaking 15-pound, 20-pound test. Because when they're mudding, they don't care about the line. I'll tell you that, and it's going to be a shorter leader. Because then I know I have less options of it line rubbing or breaking or stretching out, the line. I'm just thinking the same way you're thinking of catching a big bass.
Right.
I want to make sure I have all the right tools to be able to have the backbone of the rod, so I know it's going to be able to have awesome head control. So when that fish is running, I can turn it, I can do whatever I want with it and play it. Because like I said, these carp, they don't give up easy, dude. Yeah. I mean, dude, you ever see a grass carp? Out in Colorado, dude, I saw them over 100 pounds.
Yeah, they're insane.
You know what I mean?
Those dudes over in England, like, that's like their primary thing. Like, there's not a lot of bass dudes out there in Europe, right?
No.
Like, it's kind of a thing starting to happen. They're carp fishermen. They made a goddamn video game about carp fishing, and I was like, what the fuck?
And dude, carp fishing is their bread and butter, dude. For some reason, it's a really big sport. It's big competition, and they have amazing carp out there. From common carp to mirror carp.
The mirror ones, carp. Yeah.
And I do say, though, I've been noticing they do have a lot of pike out there.
Yeah.
Because they're doing some serious piking out there.
I feel like the Norwegian states is when I see more, obviously not all Norway, but a little bit of those northern ones, like they're pegging a lot of those. And then like, England and stuff like that. A lot of big pike.
Yeah. And then the process that they have for baiting, bro, they'll bait the night before, bro.
It's so weird.
Like, dude, they have these contraptions that they throw out there, and they opens up a little door, and the thing will and the food just, and they'll bait, and they'll know, okay, we're gonna bait here for tomorrow, and they'll come back the next day, or they camp out or whatever. Yeah. Like, it's a serious process, and those dudes take it super seriously, dude.
I saw a camping video, dude, all about carp, Dude, I saw a camping video. You're talking about the feeding, totally off topic. But these guys rolled up and they were in like Siberia, right? And they were like the center of Siberia. And this was not too long ago. So it was kind of warm there. And they used this baiting thing. And they were up in like a crater, this weird like hill. I don't know if you've ever been to Oregon, but there's
I do want to fish the Skeena out there.
I think it's Mount Hood in Oregon comes up. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Mount St. Helens. So Mount St. Helens in Washington comes up. And then there's a lake on the inside of the crater where it blew. Okay. So these dudes were in an area like that, and they baited all night, and then they sat there and drank a bunch of Russian beers and got all weird Russian. And then the next day, dude, they were slamming sturgeon. Like fish after fish, catch after catch of like these giant sturgeon, and they just live in this one like weird crater. It's just insane how some of these fish that, I mean, sturgeon's kind of a big deal here, but not really. Like, it's kind of it's a fringe community.
Yeah, maybe up in like Canada,
I mean, it's big in Washington and Oregon. There's a lot of dudes that do it up there because we've got those big ones up there. But
they have it down to a science, dude. Those people out there, and dude, I mean, that's where the Euro nymphing came from. Right. I mean, dude, they have. And you would think that the states here would have more, just because we have so much bass competitions and walleye competitions. Dude, out there is literally the home of the Euro nymphing, and that's where it all came from, all because it was competition.
Right.
And basically the rules is like barbless hooks, and you can't put any added weight onto your line. So that's where they came up with tungsten hooks and tungsten beads, and that's what they would use. They call it their so you have basically like your lead fly, or they call it their anchor. So that was the first one that punctures through the fast water, gets you down real quick. And what Euro nymphing does, it helps you get a slower drift and faster water, and it keeps you in the strike zone a lot longer. And
that seems like it makes sense. That's not a big thing here, or
it is
okay.
Now, and I would probably say the past. I'm not a Euro nympher. I'm a tight liner. I basically don't use their cider. I just basically use my tippet, and I go by feel. These guys have different colored line where they're like, okay, I'm in the green area. If this thing moves and goes below the green into the pink, boom, that's a hit, and they just set the hook.
Oh wow!
And 90% of the time, it's a fish.
That's insane.
So. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. But I basically used the same technique all my life, tight lining, using flies on a tag end, a heavier fly. But it's also like drop shotting too for bass fishing. You know what I mean? I never used a Ned rig until I went out with Cody. Yo, I'll tell you right now, dude, that dude Cody's smart as shit, bro.
He is.
His knowledge is no joke. And
dude, he was so bashful. You guys he was so. Before I did the interview with him, he was almost kind of nervous. Sorry, Cody, for letting it out. He's like, "Oh man, I'm gonna seem presumptuous. People are gonna think." I'm like, "No, dude. Like, we're here just like drop some of this knowledge, because the dude, you can tell he thinks about it on another level. Like he's thinking about it on a very almost, you know what? He thinks about it on a fly fisherman's level, but for bass. Like he is breaking things down of what looks the most natural, but not only most natural, but why. And then to have that right gear too, because he's super specific about his gear. So he's got to have that right gear.
Dude, he knows his rods. He knows his reels. He knows from the line that he has on it. He knows what rod is for what bait, what top water, what finesse, what. He was telling me the other day, he's like, dude, I just got this reel. He goes, you see how shallow the spool is? I said, yeah. He goes, that's finesse style. Because
it's like JDM.
He goes, you're not throwing out tons of line. You are up close and personal in where you're fishing, and you're finessing in a short distance. And I'm like, holy shit, dude, that totally makes sense.
It makes sense, right?
And if you've seen the live video that he just posted, and it was kind of funny, this dude is reading water, and he knows the structure by reading the top of the water.
Right.
So he told his roommate, he's like, JC, he goes, when you, DC, Derek, he was like, when
shout
you
out to Derek, shout out to the original Swamp Rat.
Yeah. DC. But he goes, see where the waves, and then he goes, see the waves on the top, and then he goes, you see that smooth? That smooth right there is underwater. There's a flat shelf. And the water, that it's basically giving you the outline of what's underneath. Bro, just think of that. How many people do you know think of that?
Right. No, he's got something extra. I want to see him. I'm stoked that you're coming back down. I want to see you bring him up. I want to see you bring him up to Connecticut, get him on those those trout streams. See, because I'm sure it'll work. His crazy fucked up brain of his will work perfectly. And that's no offense, Cody. I love you, dude. Like, but you're a fucking maniac.
But I mean, my favorite thing to do is to read water. So I tell people all the time, right? I tell them, I said, listen, when I go out fishing, if I ever took you out fishing with me, it's not about me. All right. I caught plenty of big fish in my life. My happiness is to see you knowing that you had a great trip out fishing with me on the rivers, lakes, or wherever. So I will do everything I can to put my knowledge, to feed you knowledge, to have you learn the why, when, and where, to basically have that memorable journey from the time we got into the car or got everything ready the night before. And I will go over steps with you. And Cody does the same thing. It's kind of funny because I think me and Cody get along is because I see a lot of myself into him. Because he'll be like, hey, what do you see? before I even throw. And I say that to the same people. What do you see? Where do you want to throw? Why would you throw it there? This, basically we'll go through these questions to see what people know and to also help them to know why.
Right.
Why we do what we do. And to read water is like my favorite, because if I can read the water and I get you on the fish, I knew everything that I've learned throughout the years came together in that one moment.
Yeah.
And knowing that the fish was there, it was going to eat, it would take it. That's what I get my enjoyment out of. And that's what Cody does the same thing.
I think all of us do, right? Like if you so my only personally, so a buddy of mine, he came out to River X, right? And he's the guy that got me into bass fishing. I didn't get into bass fishing until 2016. He got me into it. He brought me to this tidal river, and we smashed some of the feistiest, biggest bass I've ever caught in my life, right? And then he's also in the Coast Guard, so he transferred away, and this is like his home water. Okay. But he's been gone for 3 years. I haven't seen him in 3 years. So he shows up, and it was really cool to bring him out. I didn't have the rod a lot in my hand because the river has changed because it's tidal, so everything kind of shifts year to year. It's all every year it's kind of a brand new thing. Like you have your same kind of your bedrock, but the little nuances will change, right? But I got to show him like, hey man, cast here, like this break is now here in the sandbar, and boom, he's picking up fish, and it was cool to be able to share, even with somebody who fishes before, share the waters that we fish, share the way that we fish with them, and then to see the results of them having that happiness of hooking up.
And to see what you learned by when he was gone, and the more knowledge you have on the river when he was gone, and then to pass it on to him, where he's like, oh, I'm going to do this, and you're going to be like, yo, bro, sorry, but that's not going to work. The river changed. And
it changes.
And I tell people all the time, there is never one time you will step into the river and it will be the exact same. It always changes.
Yep.
It always changes. So, especially in tidal water.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the river system that Cody fishes, and I'll tell you right now, is not the faint for beginners.
Right.
At all. Because what you have going on beneath the surface is a whole clusterfuck, bro. Between what those beavers have done and what is down there. So you asked me the question, like, how long have I been jigging? And bro, believe it or not, I could have jigged for 20 years. When I got there, throw that away.
Throw it away, yeah.
Throw it away, because when you're jigging, when I was a kid, I used to jig these rattle jigs. It's basically the same thing, football-shaped head. It had a weed skirt on it, a weed guard, a skirt, but it had those 3-cylinder rattles in it, right?
Right, yeah.
And then I did what they called the jigging pig. So I would get almost looks like a frog out of the
pork chunk on the back.
Pork chunk on the back. And I would jig that. But when you hear the word jigging, you think it's ripping it up and letting it jig. You're jigging it, right? Well, we didn't do that. It was dragging.
Right. Yeah, you guys were football doing it, right? Like you guys were working that reel to impart the action.
It was casting out. We're drifting down the river, and as we're drifting, my jig is on the bottom, and I'm feeling every stick, and I'd hit a stick. I'd feel I was a little hung up. I'd give a little, make it up and over, jig it a little bit, and dude, these fish were sometimes so aggressive, bro. I would see my line go up, and then all of a sudden I see go to the side.
Yeah,
yeah, man. Go to the side, bam. Dude,
yeah, man. And I know you guys hook set into trout, right? But you come on, you gotta admit, hook setting into a bass is way like when you reel down and just cross their eyes and put that stick to them, like you're not doing that to a trout. Like,
bro, so I'm a savage fly fisherman, bro.
Yeah.
So I crank. Also depends if I'm doing a dry fly to a nymph or a streamer. A streamer, I do a rod line set.
Okay.
So I set the hook. So as I'm stripping and I feel it, because my rod is pointing towards my bait as I'm stripping. It's not to the side.
Right.
It's not to a side, and I'm stripping, and then it bends. I'm literally pointing it at the fish, and as soon as I feel it, as I'm cranking it to parallel with the water, a sweep set, I'm also line setting and pulling the line as hard as I can. So now I'm doing a rod set and a strip set all at one time.
I love it.
Now if it's a dry fly, it's basically I say it's like I tell people when I'm teaching them, it's like raising your hand in class. You're down and you're like, hello, I want to ask a question.
Right.
And it's pick up the phone, hang up the phone, pick up the phone, and you're not doing it aggressively. You're doing it with a slow, constant motion.
Yep. Well, it's a small enough hook. You don't need a lot of force to get that to actually penetrate.
Also depends on the tippet size, your fly size. And then there's nymphing. So when I'm nymphing, fish face upriver, I want to do a 45 to almost parallel downriver hook set because I want to get it in the corner of its mouth. So when you do a dry fly set, you usually get it in the top of its beak because you're raising it up.
Right. Okay.
A downstream set is usually, as they eat it, you're pulling it towards the corner. And then a strip set, God, that thing can be anywhere in its fucking face. You know,
it's just in his face.
Yeah. The only thing it's somewhere in the vicinity of his fucking face. You know, but yeah. So it's three different techniques. You know, but it. As you start, bro, you're doing anything. And believe me, I'm just like anybody else, dude. I get so excited, dude. I miss a lot of fish because I did the wrong thing. But in my head, I go, damn, I fucked up. I should have. Why did I do a freaking downhill, a downriver freaking hook set, Or why did I raise up too fast? Or, I pulled I know I pulled it right out of its mouth or, just shit like that, dude.
Yeah, but what you're thinking, I think, is important because that gets the steps of when there's people who are like, oh yeah, I fish. Oh yeah, what do you fish? Oh, I go like once a year. We go to this little pond. We throw out whatever, and then there's like anglers who this is what we do. This is like our main hobby. This is all encompassing. Honestly, I've come to find out that my friends that don't fish think I'm boring because this is all I do. I make content about fishing, or I'm fishing, or I'm thinking about fishing, or I'm rigging for fishing. That's really it. Like it's a very all-encompassing, almost addicting kind of culture to get into.
Bro, you know how many people didn't even think I had a job?
Hey.
Oh, you thought I didn't have?
I didn't think you had a job either. When you posted that thing today, I was like, "Damn, that motherfucker works."
And that's why I was like, "Hey, for all you people who don't think I have a job, yes, I do have a job."
All right, brother. Let's move into some rapid fire before we get into there. I'm not trying to cut you off. I'm going to tell you this right now. We're going to have you back on. I still have a slew of questions. I try to keep them around an hour. Okay. This isn't Jigs and Bigs. The 9-hour long podcast that is Jigs and Bigs now. Fucking with you guys. I love you, Bobby, Sean. But before we go any further on rapid fire, make sure you guys follow him. He's at big_nasty186 on Instagram. Are you anywhere else, or are you primarily Instagram?
Just pretty much all my content when I post it goes right to my Facebook, which is Jeffery Holloway on Facebook.
And that's another one there. And again, I want to get you on to talk because we didn't even get to your photography, which is utterly amazing. So we're gonna have to do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope you have me on again.
Absolutely, brother. All right, you ready? Rapid fire.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Crocs versus sandals.
Crocs.
Are you in off-road mode or are you in chill mode?
I'm chill. So if I lose a Croc because I'm in chill mode, it is what it is, and I'll one Croc it for the rest of the day if I got it.
A solo Croc.
Yeah.
What's your favorite fishing snack when you're out on the water?
Beef jerky.
Teriyaki or original?
Original.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know if this one's gonna work for you. Cover or structure?
Structure.
Okay, I was about to say, as a trout fisherman, definitely more structure. Right?
Yeah, it's more structure. But even when I'm bass fishing or I'm on a lake, dude, I like to try to find those drop off points, and then I try to find a lot of rock structure right before it goes rocks in the mud. It's a flat bottom.
Gotcha. Would you? We're gonna change this one for you. Would you rather catch 2 stocked rainbow trout or just snag all day?
Oh boy, yes, dude, I'll catch 2 rainbow trout because I'm not.
They're stocked though. They're dirty power bait stocked rainbow trout.
Well, I mean, what do you mean as it's being snagged up on the bottom, snagged up on trees?
Right.
Snagged up?
Yeah.
All right. So I'd rather be snagged because I know I'm trying to
catch a real fish.
To catch a real fish, but also if you don't snag, it means you're not trying to get into spots that you normally get. So you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn from it. You know.
I like that. I'm gonna keep that. I like that. You took that like off the cuff bullshit question. You took it another level. I like it.
But hey, the big boys are in that snaggy structure.
Exactly. If you're not losing gear, you're in the wrong. You know what I mean? You're not doing it right.
Absolutely. If you saw my fly box on how much shit I got, believe me, I can get snagged 1,000 times, dude, every hour, and not even put a dent in my fly box selection.
That's why we buy all this.
Yeah, we're crazy.
Wild Bill or Andrew?
Well, I don't know. I think Andrew's my boss, so
Andrew's your boss? Well, I mean, he is a rich man.
I say because being on Hookset Hoodlums, I'm like, Wild Bill doesn't act like a boss, but Andrew has more of that quiet. Like, I think Andrew would be like the guy to say, you need to come into my office. We got to have a talk. You know what? Total side note.
I was thinking about this today, right? I was dropping my kids off. Picking them up, and I'm waiting. I got like 10 minutes, and I'm waiting. And for some reason, it popped in my head, and I'm like, the trio, like, what do they actually do at Hookset, right?
Yeah.
So what I've come up with is Ken has all the money / he's not a real person. He's just a bank. He's just a bank teller at Bank of America.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I love it.
Andrew, I think he handles all the logistics. But he's also like somewhat in charge. But really, he had to start this business because his dad said he couldn't get his inheritance unless he started his own business.
Dude, that's funny. Like, show us that you're worth something.
Yep. And then Wild Bill, I think they found him at a truck stop where he was a lot lizard.
Oh,
and they needed him to get to work. And when they said Hookset Hoodlums, he thought it was totally something different.
Like Hooker.
Exactly. He thought it was Hooker Hoodlums, and it was going to be a whole brand for hookers and hoodies. So I think that's how the dynamic works with that.
So I want to say, I think that Andrew was the money for, I think he, if anything, he would be that silent, hey, all right, guys, listen, we only could put out 15% more of this cash. That's what it seems like in my eyes. And then you have Kenny, who could be a mythical figure.
I think he might be.
But I think he is more on the editing, and because the only time you really see Kenny is when he edits his face onto something for their little commercials and promos.
Right.
But then you got Wild Bill. They said, listen, we need somebody who's loud, proud, and acts like a jackass and doesn't care. So that's where Wild Bill comes into it,
I totally agree. It's such a weird dynamic. And again, the two owners are great. I'm going on record right now. Ken's a fake fucking person. He's not real. He's just a figment.
We got to get a mannequin, right? Dress him up. Or we got to get, what we got to do? We got to get a cardboard cutout of Ken. So wherever we go, be like, hey, Kenny's with us today. And just plop him in
totally off script, and this is not getting edited out. I'm going to figure out how to get a picture of him right there on the wall.
Absolutely.
I want Ken looking over me on every podcast.
Yeah. Dude, that'd be awesome, dude.
All right, man. And if Bass and Brews is known for 2 things, one is drinking beers and being ridiculous, but 2 is the most hard-hitting question in fishing journalism.
Okay.
What are your 3 favorite sandwich proteins?
3 favorite sandwich proteins. Okay. 1, I'm big into roast beef.
Roast beef, I love it.
Roast beef is bloody as it could be. All right. I am also big on, just because it's something my dad always ate and I like it on mustard, is liverwurst.
That's a first. All right. That's a first.
Liverwurst, and I don't even know if it's a sandwich, but I know you know it, but I still don't know what it's in it, is scrapple.
I mean, okay, so Scrapple is just.
I don't know. Is that even a sandwich? Like, because I know you can have.
It's not a sandwich protein, but in South Jersey, you can get it as a breakfast sandwich, so I'll count it. Like you can get Scrapple between like a bagel, with a bunch of syrup, but all it is pig and
lips and assholes.
Yeah, exactly. Pig and cow lips and assholes. That's it.
Yeah, maybe even a little hoof here and there.
Probably it's all mashed by a very polite, nice Amish girl named Greta, and that's how Scrapple's made.
Oh my God!
Hey, brother, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, no, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate you having me on, and I'm looking forward. Hopefully, we can get back on again.
Dude, we got to do another one. So make sure you guys follow him. It's big_nasty186. Make sure you head over to hooksethoodlums.com. Get your sweet merch there. Brother, thank you so much. We're definitely going to have to set up another one.
Yeah, and remember, I'm fishing with Lockwood at the end of the month, so I'm going to have some pretty good stories.
I can't wait.
Have some pretty
you know what? We should do a twosome or a threesome.
Ooh.
A threesome.
Ooh. Hey, a menage a trois.
You know what? We should do a threesome. When you get done with that, the three of us sit down. We should break that down.
That would be hilarious.
I love it, man.
Hey, I appreciate everything again, bro. And you have a good one. And congratulations on your great podcast, man. I love it.
Later, brother. Thank you very much. Man. You guys have a good night.
All right. Be good.